The gavel's echo hadn't faded before the silence swallowed the courtroom whole. Richard Rawlings, the man whose grin had launched 1,000 automotive dreams, stood shackled at the defendant's table, his signature black T-shirt replaced by a loose-fitting prison jumpsuit. For nearly a decade, viewers watched him turn rusted carcasses into six-figure masterpieces on Discovery's Fast and Loud. But on this frigid December morning in the Frank Crowley Courts building in Dallas, the only thing being rebuilt was the truth about his multimillion-dollar empire. The man who taught America to love the flip was about to learn the brutal difference between a barn find and a federal indictment. As U.S. District Judge Jane J. Boyle read the sentence, 60 months in federal prison, followed by $3.7 million in restitution, Rawlings didn't smirk. He didn't crack a joke for the cameras. He simply closed his eyes, and the king of gas monkey garage vanished into the holding cell. To understand the magnitude of the fall, you have to look past the television magic and into the gritty reality of the Dallas-Fort Worth auto scene. Rawlings wasn't just a mechanic with a TV deal, he was a branding savant. He took Gas Monkey Garage, a real, working shop founded in 2002, and turned it into a lifestyle behemoth. According to authenticated Texas business records, at its peak in 2018, his holding company, Rawlings Holdings LLC, controlled over 7 distinct entities, including Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, a live music venue, and a licensing empire that stretched to energy drinks and die-cast models. The show, which premiered in 2012, was the engine. But the fuel was something darker. A systematic exploitation of the classic car titling process that experts now call the Texas title loophole, a gap in state law regarding bonded titles that Rawlings allegedly weaponized for profit. The scandal that finally broke Richard Rawlings did not involve a stolen Ferrari or a wrecked Lamborghini. It was the most American of cars, the Ford Mustang. Specifically, a 1969 Ford Mustang Boss 429, a holy grail in the muscle car world. Authentic examples with matching numbers and original frames regularly auctioned for over $300,000. That in the 2017 season off *operator Fast and Loud *operator, Rawlings Sandiscrofamously rescued a Boss 429 from a barn in Oklahoma, claiming it had sat in Tchetson Seth 1970s. The episode, titled Boss Comeback, Wasserting's Bonanza, that viewer swatched Trawling Shaggle the price down, then celebrated as Gasmung Kitium restored Thikartaglima Glorabefort was sold to a private tech collector in Scottsdale, Arizona, for a whopping $300,000. That in the 2017 season off *operator Fast and Loud *operator, Rawlings Sandiscrofamously rescued a Boss 429 from a barn in Oklahoma, claiming it had sat in Tchetson Seth 1970s. The episode, titled Boss Comeback, Wasserting's Bonanza, viewer swatched Trawling Shaggle the price down, then celebrated as Gasmung Kitium restored Thikartaglima Glorabefort was sold to a private tech collector in Scottsdale, Arizona, for a whopping $410,000. The problem, according to the 2023 indictment unsealed by the Northern District of Texas, was that the car was a ghost. Federal investigators, working with the National Insurance Crime Bureau (NICB), revealed that the VIN vehicle identification number on that specific Boss 429 did not belong to a 1969 Mustang. It belonged to a 1973 Cougar that had been crushed for scrap in 1999 using advanced laser etching technology that rivaled that of state DMVs. The indictment alleged that Rawlings' shop fabricated a new VIN tag and welded it over a repaired firewall. But why go to such extremes? The truth was that the actual body of the car was a rebody, a salvaged Mustang shell bought for $8,000 from a Louisiana junkyard after fatal flood. By assigning a clean, fake VIN, Rawlings effectively laundered the car's history, turning a flooded, unsellable chassis into a matching numbers masterpiece. Richard Rawlings built his brand on the lie that the flip was just clever capitalism. But the Fast and Loud production model created an impossible pressure cooker. Behind the scenes, former crew members, speaking under condition of anonymity to automotive outlets like Jalopnik and Road and Track in early 2024, described a culture of deadline VIN swapping. When the cameras were rolling, the drama was about finding parts or welding frames. When the cameras stopped, the real drama was about titles, Texas, unlike many title-washing states, has a lenient process for obtaining a bonded title for a vehicle with missing paperwork. Rawlings allegedly perfected the art of exploiting this process. He would buy cars with no paperwork, frequently from states that had destroyed their old records, then apply for bonded titles using falsified bills of sale. After 3 years, if no claim was made, that bonded title became a clean, standard Texas title. It was a legal gray area until the Mustang scandal turned it black and white. The turning point came not from a rival, but from a fan. In 2022, a meticulous collector named Bradley H. from Nevada purchased a Gas Monkey restored 1970 Mustang Mach 1 at a Mecum auction. He paid a premium $115,000, specifically because of the car's provenance on television. When he went to register it, his insurance appraiser noticed that the torque boxes, the structural components of the unibody, showed 2 different types of spot welds. It was a forensic red flag. Bradley paid for an independent VIN verification, a service offered by the Vehicle Identification Number Association, VINA. The result was devastating. The car's unibody was a collision-damaged shell from a 1999 accident, welded to roof panels from a different 1969 donor. He sued, and when his lawyers subpoenaed Gas Monkey's internal records, they found a pattern that caught the attention of the FBI's art crime team, which routinely handles high-value vehicle fraud. What the subsequent federal investigation uncovered was not a single mistake, but a systematic process. According to the plea agreement eventually signed by Rawlings, the garage maintained a hidden database, kept off the main servers and on a standalone laptop, known internally as the Cradle. This database tracked over 200 classic cars that had been rebodied or given alternative identities between 2015 and 2022. The scheme was elegant in its ugliness. A car with a salvage title worth $20,000 would be stripped to its bare metal. The original VIN stamps, hidden in the firewall, transmission tunnel, or radiator support, would be ground down and filled with lead. Then, using stencils and acid etching kits that mimic Ford's 1960s factory methods, a new VIN from a legally registered but long crush car would be applied. The television show, Fast and Loud, was the perfect money laundering vehicle for these assets. Richard Rawlings understood that a car featured on television carries a halo premium. He was not selling steel, he was selling a story. By broadcasting the restoration of these fake Mustangs, he created a contemporaneous paper trail, the episode itself, that acted as a de facto certificate of authenticity. Who would doubt the provenance of a car they just saw pulled from a barn on Discovery Channel? The indictment alleged that Rawlings used this tactic to sell at least 34 fraudulent vehicles to unsuspecting buyers across 8 different states. The total estimated loss to victims, $4.2 million. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Within hours of Rawlings' sentencing being reported by the Dallas Morning News and confirmed by Reuters, the corporate partners fled. Dodge, which had a lucrative promotional deal with Rawlings for the Gas Monkey Garage Edition Hellcat, issued a 1-sentence statement discontinuing the partnership. Discovery Communications scrubbed Fast and Loud from its international streaming platforms in the UK, Australia, and Canada, citing a review of talent compliance. But the most devastating blow came from the state of Texas. The Texas Department of Motor Vehicles, TXDMV, announced a retroactive audit of every title processed by Gas Monkey Garage since 2010. This effectively froze the resale value of every car the shop had ever touched, creating a cloud of suspicion over thousands of vehicles. In the courtroom, the victim impact statements painted a portrait of betrayal that went far beyond money. A retired firefighter from Ohio testified that he had liquidated his retirement fund to buy a Rawlings restored Shelby GT500 for his son's wedding. He presented the judge with photographs of the car's engine bay, where the fake VIN had begun to flake off under the heat. "You sold me a dream," he said, his voice trembling, "and gave me a felony I didn't know I was committing, because, as the prosecution pointed out, owning a vehicle with a tampered VIN is a crime in itself." Many of Rawlings' victims are now fighting to keep their cars from being seized by the FBI as evidence. The legal defense attempted to paint Rawlings as a victim of his own success. His attorney argued that the day-to-day operations of the garage were delegated to a shop foreman who has since fled the country. They claimed Rawlings was a TV personality, not a metallurgist, and that he trusted his team to handle the paperwork. But the prosecution had a smoking gun, a series of text messages recovered from Rawlings' personal iPhone. In one exchange, dated 2 days after the Boss 429 episode aired, Rawlings texted a business partner, "We need to slow down on the 60s frames. The VIN stamps are too clean. Tell the guys to weather them before paint." When that text was read aloud, the gallery of automotive journalists gasped. It was the admission that the patina of age, the very essence of the barn find myth, had been a manufactured illusion. The sentence of 60 months, 5 years, in a federal low-security facility, followed by 3 years of supervised release, was actually harsher than federal guidelines suggested. Judge Boyle explained her reasoning in a blistering 20-minute statement. She noted that Rawlings had not only defrauded buyers, but had corrupted a federal instrumentality, the DMV titling system. She compared his actions to art forgery on an industrial scale. "You commoditized trust," she said, "and in doing so, you didn't just steal money, you stole history. Every time a collector looks at a 1969 Mustang now, they will wonder if it came from your garage. You have damaged an entire market." The collapse of Richard Rawlings serves as a stark pivot point for the automotive entertainment industry. For years, reality TV has walked a fine line between docudrama and outright fabrication. But Fast and Loud blurred the line between the physical car and the narrative. Other stars from the Discovery and Motor Trend stables are now facing quiet audits of their own inventory. Immediately following the sentencing, streaming activity for shows like Bitchin' Rides and Iron Resurrection spiked, not for entertainment, but for forensic evidence as fans and owners desperately paused frames to check VIN plates in the background of old episodes. So, what is left of Gas Monkey Garage? The physical shop on Bisbee Street in Dallas is closed, its iconic neon sign dark. The Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, once a tourist mecca, was sold to a bankruptcy liquidator in a fire sale. The assets, the lifts, the tools, the half-finished projects were auctioned off by the U.S. Marshals Service in November 2024. Interestingly, the top bidder for many of the lots was a consortium of Richard Rawlings' former victims who planned to display the fraudulent parts as a traveling museum exhibit titled The Fake Mustangs. They want to educate buyers on how to spot title washing. Richard Rawlings walked out of the Frank Crowley Courts building one last time, his wrists cuffed to a chain around his waist. The man who once revved engines for millions was loaded into a plain, white van. As the vehicle pulled away, a heckler in the parking lot held up a sign that read, "VIN Swap King." Rawlings looked away. It was the final cut, the last frame of the Fast and Loud saga. The show that built an empire on the scream of a big block V8 was silenced not by a bad transmission, but by the quiet scratch of an etching needle. In the end, the king of cars wasn't taken down by a rival or a bad deal. He was sentenced by the truth he tried to grind off a firewall. Goodbye is forever, especially when the title is fake.